When Nick Chubb was drafted out of Georgia, he was seen as an almost afterthought behind Saquon Barkley. He was the fourth running back taken in the 2018 NFL Draft. Many believe that the Browns actually settled for him in the first place after missing out on Rashaad Penny, who was taken in the first round by the Seahawks. Since then, we all know that Barkley has ascended to the elite status, while Penny, for instance, has not really proven his value as a former first rounder. My argument in this video is that not only is Nick Chubb the second best running back from this draft class, but he should also be recognized as one of the best running backs in the entire league. His ability to create yards in the Browns offense is what makes him so incredibly dangerous. When you look at Chubb on film, the first thing that stands out is just how ridiculously strong and violent he is as a runner. His ability to churn through tackles and drive through piles to pick up tough yards is something that I really like. What surprised me as I tracked all of his plays from the 2019 season wasn't just his ferocity. It was the subtlety and the nuanced running style that Chubb has mastered that allows him to break tackles in the first place. He knows how to set up blocks to create angles for his offensive line. He uses those to cut into open space. This is such a crucial element to his game, and it really helps him on gap and power runs. Back in Week 1 against the Titans, the Browns ran a draw out of shotgun. This is a delayed run useful in getting the blockers in position while simultaneously inviting the edge rushers to pin their ears back and rush up the field. This is what created the hole in the first place. I want you to pay close attention to how Chubb ran this play. It's run to absolute perfection. After taking the handoff, Chubb approached the left guard from behind. Now, many running backs in this situation would see the edge rusher on the left peeking his head, and they would also see a little bit of grass in front of them to hammer forward and pick up the 4-yard gain. On 1st and 10 in the second quarter, 4 yards isn't a bad result. What Chubb does instead is what takes him from that average play and what propels him to that next level. Chubb pressed the inside shoulder of his blocker before planting his feet in order to cut horizontally. This was all to set up his block to get outside. The lineman was then able to wrap around his linebacker just enough to hook him, and this helped Chubb break towards the sideline. He picked up 9 yards on this one, and it was all due to that ability. I love this play because it's executed so incredibly well. He takes these basic, routine plays, and he consistently creates more than what his offensive line blocks for. Here's another example that happened in Week 8 against the Patriots. Again, watch his footwork to see how he set up his lane. This time, the Browns are running outside zone out of shotgun. After the snap, Chubb reads his blocks and sees that a hole is opening up in the backside B gap. This is the spot between the backside guard and the left tackle. He steps into the hole pretending like he was going to jump through, but this was all to set up his burst and cut back towards the other side. Chubb knew that if he pressed the line of scrimmage at this point, he can draw the defensive line inwards in order to allow his blockers to get better angles. That's what happened here. He jab stepped down with his left foot and burst all the way from the backside B gap to the frontside C gap. Chubb then met a defender at the 20-yard line and dragged him forward to finish this run for the 7-yard gain. The way I see it is that your average running back isn't making this play. They aren't planning out their moves 3 gaps away in order to create the running lanes. They don't have the vision, they don't have the patience, and they don't have the burst to fully execute on these types of runs. Yes, this play, just like the last, feel pretty routine, but it's the perfect execution on these basic plays that gets me really excited. I just don't think many running backs can do all 3 things as consistently as he does. Now, setting up blocks and having the patience to fully execute was something that Chubb displayed all over his film. He uses this ability to set up defenders in the hole in order to break free at the line of scrimmage. His ability to break through arm tackles and drag defenders is so valuable in the Browns' offense. It's also going to be extremely valuable next season with Kevin Stefanski as well. Before we take a deeper dive into Chubb's perfect fit in his future offense, I wanted to thank Manscaped.com for being the sponsor of this week's video. If you're a hairy guy and you deal with, an uncomfortable amount of hair all over your body, look no further than Manscaped. Their Perfect Package 3.0 kit has all the tools you need to keep your family jewels clean. This kit includes the new Lawnmower 3.0 trimmer, which is the only trimmer on the market with advanced skin-safe technology. This helps reduce nicks and cuts from all of your manscaping accidents. Plus, it's water-resistant, which makes it perfect for use in the shower. When you purchase this kit at Manscaped.com, you'll also get a replacement blade refill for the trimmer delivered to your door every 3 months. In addition to the trimmer, this kit includes the Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant and the Crop Reviver Toning Spray. Plus, for a limited time only, and if you use my promo code SAMGOLD, you get 20% off your order, free shipping, and 2 free gifts: the Shed Travel Bag and the Manscaped Anti-Shaving Boxer Briefs. This is a great deal exclusive to this channel, so make sure you check it out. As I mentioned earlier, let's take a deep dive into Chubb's fit in Kevin Stefanski's offense. After looking over the Vikings film from last season, what I saw was really encouraging. I can immediately tell you that Chubb on day 1 will be a star in this new scheme. For reference, the Browns ran a ton of outside zone, gap, and inside zone last season under Freddie Kitchens. What you see on your screen are my hand-tracked figures for how well Chubb performed on each of these concepts. I went play by play going through all of his 298 carries and tracked them to see how well he performed in this scheme. Based on the orange bars, which is the yards per carry that Chubb created in addition to what his offensive line blocked for in blue, Chubb was downright nasty. He was exceptional at running two of these concepts, outside zone, which the Browns ran out of single back and shotgun, and he was even better at running power as well. While we'll talk more about power a little bit later in this video, let's take a look at the scheme and play calling that the Vikings used last season. Based on my film study, the Vikings specialized in perimeter running using outside zone and toss plays to stretch the defense horizontally. They then used that flow from the defensive line to open up cutback lanes for the running backs by calling inside zone in order to get their running back downhill. Dalvin Cook was an animal in the scheme. Based on everything I've shown you in the last few plays, Chubb ran a lot of these concepts in Cleveland. They both love running two-back outside zone to the strong side. They both love mid-zone weak. I saw a lot of crack toss, which Cleveland uses as well, and I also saw the occasional power run out of offset eye. One play that the Vikings didn't run as frequently last season was duo, which is a gap play that the Browns loved. This is something they ran on roughly 20% of Chubb's carries. Out of all of his runs, this is a play that I'm perfectly okay with them not running as frequently next season. As I said before, Chubb was amazing at running outside zone and mid-zone just like the Vikings used last season. I think they'll definitely continue that next year because he has that one-cut ability to perfectly fit the scheme. Now, from a play calling perspective, the scheme that I described for Kevin Stefanski is very similar to the one that the 49ers run under Kyle Shanahan and the same one that the Rams run under Sean McVay. These coaches call it the wide zone scheme, which is a play extremely similar to outside zone. The only minor difference being the goal of this play is more to create a stretch on the defense and create the cutback lane, whereas outside zone attempts to get the running back towards the edge. For the purposes of this breakdown, I consolidated wide zone and outside zone into one concept, as from a blocking standpoint, they are both very similar. Regardless, and as you can see on your screen, the Rams in 2018 ran outside zone almost the same exact percentage of the time with Todd Gurley that the Browns ran it with Nick Chubb in 2019. The main differences between Freddie Kitchens' 2019 scheme and the new scheme under Stefanski doesn't have to do with the frequency of outside zone. The difference is more about the secondary play that each coach pairs with outside zone to create that bigger play. Stefanski, like Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay, loves inside zone to create cutbacks. Kitchens, on the other hand, loved using gap and power plays as a changeup for his offense. For next season, expect the Browns to run more inside zone and fewer gap plays. Now, one concept from my tracking that the Browns absolutely can't give up is power. Chubb is incredible at running this concept, and you can tie that to the new perimeter stretch game that Stefanski will likely install. I expect big things coming from this play next season, just like it did back here in Week 4. Versus the Ravens, the Browns ran CG power to the right. The right tackle and the two tight ends on the right down blocked their respective defenders, while the center and guard pulled to kick out the linebackers. Chubb hopped over the first linebacker to get past the line of scrimmage. He then stepped inside his tight end to help him secure the block outside, and then he followed the center down the field to finish the play for the big gain. I love how this play overloads the sideline and how it allows Chubb to do what he does best. It gets him in space where he can then use his footwork to elude defenders to gain additional yards. Here's another power run in Week 8 against the Patriots. One thing to note is that Chubb did fumble the ball at the end of this one, but since he only has 3 career fumbles on over 500 touches, this isn't something I'm really overly concerned about. This play is called crack toss and it's run out of shotgun. The right tackle and Jarvis Landry kicked out the defenders on the edge, while the other blockers on the right down blocked their respective defenders. After stretching the defense wide, Chubb put his foot in the ground and made his cut to go vertical. He broke a tackle at the 43-yard line, broke a second tackle at the 45, and then he got into open space. As he kept running down the field, multiple defenders bounced off of him and Chubb just kept on churning. He made it all the way down to the 16-yard line before getting stripped from behind. Now yes, this fumble isn't good, but the process and how he broke tackles is what I want you to focus on this one. He must have broken at least 4 on this play alone, and that was consistent throughout his entire season. If you use this insight and then you chart broken tackles per attempt, Chubb is one of the best in the entire NFL at this ability. He's up there at the top right on this graph, and it's clearly something he's good at. This is a big part of his game and a big reason why he creates so many yards independent of his offensive line. That's not going to change next season. What's interesting is that the NFL just released their own version of a stat I broke down earlier in this video. Instead of calling it running back contribution like I did, they called it rush yards over expected. On your screen, you can see how well Chubb did amongst his peers in this metric. According to them, Chubb created 0.9 rushing yards over expected on his carries. This is good for second in the entire NFL. Meanwhile, Derrick Henry was in first place with slightly over 1, while running backs like Josh Jacobs and Christian McCaffrey came in 3rd and 4th respectively. While I do think this metric does have value, as it uses speed on handoff, direction, acceleration, and position of defenders, I don't think it accounts for scheme to normalize results. Teams that run more outside zone and inside zone as their base plays probably have better expected yardage outputs on average than teams that run power and counter. That's all due to the mechanics of how fast a running back takes the handoff. Additionally, the way they calculate each play is not good on a per-play basis. It's decent in aggregate, but you do need a large enough sample size in order for it to fully provide value. Regardless, and like any metric you'll see in an imprecise game like football, this one still does give us context. It confirms what I saw on film and what I saw from my own tracking. Chubb is an elite running back, and he's already among the best in pretty much every single advanced stat that I've seen. That's why I'm so confident in his abilities going forward. While I haven't really talked about his receiving abilities in this breakdown, this has never been a really big part of Chubb's game. He drops more passes than the average running back, and his route tree is pretty much limited to screens and checkdowns. I don't expect him to be running anything more complicated than that next season. Now, I do understand that receiving abilities are still very important for a well-rounded running back. Nowhere have I said that Chubb is bad or anything like that, it's just that he's just not the best at this from a pure objective standpoint. Chubb is incredible as a runner, and that's where his strengths lie. In my opinion, this still makes Chubb incredibly valuable even in the modern NFL. He's an elite running back, and anytime we look at this position that's becoming more and more underrated over time, Chubb needs to be mentioned as one of the best in the entire league. Well, that's all I have for you in this one. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to my channel. Also, if you support me on my Patreon, my fantasy football rankings are now available in the link below. If you want access, all it takes is just a $1 donation, and I'll gladly update those rankings all summer long. Until then, you can follow me on Twitter for my latest updates at Samuel R. Gold.